Hi, this is Melanie for Pardesi Reviews, and I'm here to do a review of the Malayalam film starring Dulquer, Oru Yamandan Premakadha. If you're new to Pardesi Reviews, I do trailer reactions and film reviews of Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, and Hindi films. Okay, what you need to know about me is that I am a huge Dulquer Salmaan fan. Huge! I fell for him and his charm in the Tamil Mani Ratnam film, Okay Kanmani. I just thought he was so charming. And of course, then in seeking out his other films, pretty much everything else at that time was in Malayalam cinema. So I ordered DVDs from India. I got Bangalore Days, Ustad Hotel. And not only did I fall more for Dulquer, but for the whole world of Malayalam cinema, which is so special and so unique and just has sort of just this indie cinema kind of a feel to it. So it's exciting that Dulquer is returning to Malayalam cinema after a break of 2 years. He's been expanding his career, doing films like Mahanati, which was a dual language Telugu and Tamil film. He did Karvan, which was a Hindi film with Irfan Khan, which was kind of a smaller scale. His really big Bollywood debut is coming up in June. He's starring opposite Sonam Kapoor in The Zoya Factor, which I'm very much looking forward to. So he's done these other films, but now he's coming back home, and I think I could tell he was doing something a little bit different. He's doing kind of a comedy and also kind of trying to do a masala hero kind of a persona in some of the scenes. And he's playing such a laid-back, easygoing, colorful kind of a character. He is Lalu, and while he comes from a wealthy family, his father's evidently a lawyer, and his brother is in IT or something. He's the elder brother, but he dropped out of school and he's happy to just be a day laborer painter. He hangs out with his other friends who are part of the painting crew, Soubin Shahir in a intentionally funny reddish hairpiece. And he has another friend who's blind, played by Vishnu Unnikrishnan, who I didn't know when I was watching the film is one of the writers of the film. The other writer of the film is Bibin George, who actually plays the villain. So as a writing team, they've done a couple of very successful films. Amar Akbar Antony. Bibin George plays this villain, and he was so good at playing this villain. He was so evil. I don't know if I completely got all the things that he was hearing in his head, the teasing from his childhood. They tried to give him all sorts of motivation for being as evil as he was. But he really had good screen presence. And it wasn't until one of the last fight scenes that I realized that the actor himself is a disabled person, that he had polio as an infant. And, you know, I was at first I was like, is he walking with a limp because of something that happened in the fight? And then I realized no. And then when I came home and I was looking up, you know, what other films has he done, that I realized that he is a person, you know, with a handicap from polio. So amazing. I just think he was amazing in the film. And Vishnu was very good playing this blind friend. There was a lot of comedy in the film, but I don't know that the story really completely resonated with me. I know what they were trying to do. They were kind of showing how things are so interconnected and that there's this pure love that Dulquer has for someone, and also just how a small gesture can have ramifications that you never expect. For instance, at one point Dulquer gives what seems to be an inconsequential gift for an occasion to his brother, which later turns out to be literally life-saving, that he gave this seemingly small, nothing gift. Characters that you think are just bums by the side of the road, but who witness something and then are key to solving a mystery later in the film. So I could see what they're going there, but my issue and I can say this without spoilers, I will have a spoiler rant at the end, is that the women characters, the women are falling for Lalu, Dulquer's character. You know, everybody is trying to go for him, but he's waiting for a love marriage. He's waiting for that connection. He literally says, I need to feel that spark before. And there's two women, but they're so, one is so saintly and the other one is okay, but they're just so thinly written. They're like cardboard cutouts, and they don't feel like real women. And so that was my frustration. Here, the title of the film, which I didn't know going in, I asked someone as I was walking out, what does the title mean? And it means the great love story, which I think I was glad I didn't know before I went in. Dulquer was very good. He's so charming, and that's part of, everybody in town loves him, even though he's just, gets into all these hijinks and pranks and with his friends. He's just lovable. BC Noufal is the director. I think he's a debut director. I'm wondering if Dulquer, I admire stars helping young filmmakers out and helping them get their dream projects made. This film was 2 hours and 45 minutes. It did not need to be that long. It wasn't really stretched long by tons of songs. There was only two real songs in the film. There was a fantasy love song, which was very beautiful. And Vivek Ranjit was the subtitlist. And while he doesn't rhyme his lyrics the way Rakes does as subtitles, I felt like I got the poetry and the colorful imagery of the lyrics through the way he subtitled them. And then there was a festival dance song, which I absolutely loved, that whole sequence. That's what the poster shows us. Yeah, Dulquer's always wearing these colorful clothes that looks like they were, from Holy or something, but that's just the way they are. They're just always colorful, almost tie-dyed or something colors. And so he can dance in a mundu and have the slit go all the way up. And yeah, he's not the greatest dancer in the world, but he does it with gusto. And I love that whole sequence. And he does very well in the fight scenes, which there's not tons of them, but those he does, I thought he did a really good job in them. What I did get was the real emotional connection to this whole love story thing, and also just trying to show all these connections. I've seen other films that show that kind of concept and touch me, the way this film didn't really do. I was expecting more because it's a Dulquer Salmaan film. I still enjoyed so much of it. There was some really funny lines, like his introduction scene. I'm not going to spoil it, but he comes out and then they subvert your expectations of what that scene was, and another character says, okay, we've spent so much of the budget on your introduction, are you going to get down to work? And the very last line of the movie, we finally find out what his nickname, Lalu, what his real name is, and there was a very funny line there. He also constantly says, instead of saying okay to someone, he says, I think he says Omanakuti, which I tried to look up, and I think it kind of means like dear darling. And I'm wondering if that was sort of, again, a riff on OK Kanmani, which, I appreciated all those little Easter egg things. One thing that Vivek and the subtitles did well was he let me know when it was an old classic song. I could tell just by hearing it, but for instance, there's one scene where Dulquer's at a wedding and he lip syncs to one of his father's songs. And I wouldn't have necessarily recognized that was from a Mammootty film. So I very much appreciated that the subtitles clued me in so I could really enjoy that moment fully. I'm just not completely satisfied with the film. It's average to me, and I was hoping it was going to be better than that. And a lot of it is just, like I said, for a film called The Great Love Story, it wasn't a great love story to me. Okay, so I think it's still worthwhile seeing, but mainly if you're a Dulquer Salmaan fan, I think you'll be pretty happy with seeing him and this fun character. I don't know if anybody else is going to necessarily fall for him just from this movie alone. He's done more interesting work and better acting in other films. But this one is just fun. This one is just like leave your brain at the door, fun. Okay, now I'm going to get into a spoiler little rant. I think it's Jesna is the girl from his town who's had a crush on him since they were kids and keeps asking him, are you feeling the spark yet? Are you feeling the spark yet? I kind of loved her. She was just bold. Everybody else gave up. And she just kept asking, even to the point when she handed him her wedding invitation. She asked one last time. I fear for that groom. So she's like, all you need to do is 2 seconds before the wedding. Just tell me and I'm there. I'm like, oh boy. But the other character that he falls for, he kept saying he'd only feel the spark. And they even take him to like a women's college and all this crazy stuff, right? For him to just, as he sees the picture of a missing girl in the newspaper. That's what pulls the spark. And he thinks, well, she's just, I mean, people are telling him, well, she probably eloped with someone. That's why she's missing. But of course, it was, you know, it was all, of course, with the villain and So they never meet except for having passed, and he just, what he says to every girl is, don't cut your hair. I just felt like it wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough for me that he was in love with this idea of a girl. And then when we find out about her, when he's asking her friends and he's talking to her co-workers and whatever, we basically find out that she was a literal saint. Okay, a literal saint, because she prays for that one little cancer girl, who then is at the end and heals the girl with cancer. So she, you know, a miracle, I guess, right? But literally she was a saint. She was going to donate her own kidney to her mother, and she wasn't a real girl. She was like the platonic ideal of the girl. Okay, she was just, and so I just couldn't have a connection to that. That he was so moved that when he finally sees her in person, she's a corpse in a coffin. Like, I don't know. Like, couldn't they have at least had one meeting of the eyes, something? That would have been a little bit more for me, instead of just seeing her picture in the newspaper. And I can tell you the plot that I wish that it had been. What I wish it had been is that he held out for this ideal of a girl, but then really realized that the girl that was there all the time, I mean, they kind of tricked us, because there was one point when he fights for Jesna when she's being manhandled at the festival, and they kind of trick us because you can see her look like, this is the moment, he fought for me, this is it, and he walks away. So they teased us with that, but that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be that he comes home and realizes the girl next door was the one for him all along. Okay, so obviously I'm coming in with all these expectations, and that's not what the filmmakers wanted to do, but I'm just telling you that it didn't connect with me. Maybe it did for you. Maybe you just thought it was a fun romp. It was just a laugh enough. But I just wish that the women that were included in the film had a little bit more to do. It was completely the Dulquer Salmaan show, which normally I would be like, that's great. But, you know, I'd rather see Dulquer Salmaan opposite somebody like Sai Pallavi, who's definitely a three-dimensional woman, like in Kali, for instance. So that's just my bias. That's what I would like to see. And I'm hoping, you know, I'm going to get a little bit more of that in the Zoya Factor, I guess, which is coming out in June. All right, I'd love to know what you thought about this film. I felt like a lot of the comedy was wordplay, and I wasn't getting everything, so it may have been much funnier in the original Malayalam and not subtitles. So I will grant you that. But I'd love to know what you thought about it, if you enjoyed it, if you also felt like it was just average and you were expecting more. Really interested to know what you thought. Follow me on Twitter at PardesiYT. Please do subscribe here to Pardesi Reviews, and if you press the bell when you subscribe, then you'll get a notification whenever I have a new film review or trailer reaction.